going back to where it all started. Back to the Matrix.
Okay, so Matrix 4, Resurrection. Alright, I'm going to try to make this video as quick as possible, but I want to say there's a lot of theories out there about Matrix and, just the whole story and mythology, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm just going to just talk about the trailer, what I got from the trailer. I don't have any theories. I don't want to make any theories about, you know, what it could potentially be about. I'm just going to base my theories off the evidence that we have off this trailer. So here we go. All right, so I'm going to talk about the Matrix Resurrection trailer. And I'm not gonna break it down, second by second, you know what I'm saying? But there were things that stuck out to me that I'm gonna talk about with you guys. So let's just rock out for a minute. And I'll just, so I'm gonna just, not in any order, I'm just gonna touch on the things that stuck out to me. You know what I'm saying? I broke down half the trailer. So but it seemed, but you know what? It seems to me that it's all about the system rebooting itself. You know what I'm saying? The system rebooting itself, the Genesis, right? It makes me think of the word Genesis when I seen this trailer. And just stay with me. When the trailer started, as it began to unfurl, they had Janis Joplin's music playing, and I've heard this song before. I mean, many people have. I mean, it's Janis Joplin, but more specifically, it was played in The Sopranos, right? Why does that matter? Because when I was watching The Sopranos, that Janis Joplin song was used to show Tony Soprano's beginnings, right? And that's why this is important, because it's about beginnings. What was Tony Soprano's genesis? In this video, we're talking about the genesis of Neo, the genesis of Morpheus, the genesis of Trinity, the genesis of the One. Right? So it makes sense why they use that Janis Joplin song. Great song, great song. But yeah, it's about the genesis, man. And another thing that I wanted to point out, to extended olive branch on top of that Janis Joplin song, is that it's a resurrection, right? I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh man, it's gonna, Lawrence Fishburne isn't back, or Neo is coming back, but he's not gonna be Neo. He's gonna be another person, and Trinity's actually another person." And I know it sounds like a lot of people are up in arms about certain roles being switched when it comes to that, whether it be gender or just characters. Neo. And if you look at the trailer, and you don't have to look at it too closely because I did it for you. But in the trailer, Neo is looking in the mirror, and at first it's not Neo. It's not as we know him. And then he looks a little closer, and then the Matrix happens in the mirror, or something like whatever happened. It changed the configuration of Neo. And he became the Neo that we know him as. And I'm okay with that. As far as this, this was, if we're talking about, because when I think about the Matrix, I think about avatars, I think about, computers, I think about video games, I think about it being this whole, concept of, just a different world, what I'm saying, where, things are all illusions, right? You never can really hang your hat on anything being what it appears to be, right? And so when I seen that, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It makes sense because he goes through cycles. Neo's always reincarnated, right? He's always reincarnated. This is nothing new. This is not, something that they just sprung up and everybody's like, oh, I can't believe they're changing everything to this and they're making this person. No, they've always done this. This is rebooting. I mean, what do you think happens? The savior always gets reincarnated. So and then you see this picture here where Neo's body is, we actually see what happens to his body. To my knowledge, it looks as if they're gonna show us what happened directly after Matrix 3, where they had his body in Robot City, and it looks like they're plugging him back up. It looks like they dragged his body, they plugged him back up into the Matrix and fed him intravenously into some other people, and then if you think about, I did a little research also on the video game Matrix Online. They were trying to find his scattered remains, right? So after, in Matrix Online, the story is still told, right? So they found out that, so the people that survived, they found out that Neo's remains were all around, the Matrix. It was spread out along the Matrix. So they were trying to, find him, find the pieces to him, I guess. And this kind of feels like that story. It kind of feels like that story. They're trying to find him. Everyone's having a reconstruction. Reconfiguration or resurrection. So it's not just Neo, who's probably a different person. It's, for example, if you look at Trinity while she's yelling, you can see two distinct faces, and this looks like two different women. So she might not be what she appears either. It's Trinity. It's Morpheus. Obviously, Morpheus being played by a different actor, but it goes hand in hand. It still goes hand in hand. It's not so. I'm learning that it's not so much. Maybe it's easy for me to let as far as like, because I like good stories. Like if the story is great, I'm gonna let all this shit ride. You know what I'm saying? But if it's not, then I'll be back to say blah blah blah. But I'll be back to say, oh, I didn't like this movie, blah 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 blah. But yeah, I'm expecting. I would, when I actually look at the whole story in its entirety, it kind of makes sense it would be like this, right? Because even in the end, when Neo was faced with the ultimate AI, I guess the guy sitting in the chair talking to him, the guy told him, there's been many Neos that have come before you. You're just one of many, and you're gonna be even more. So, and he just looks like Keanu Reeves for our comfort, right? There was nothing written in stone that said he looked like Keanu Reeves every time, right? So I think that's something that people are getting hung up on. And also, I think I, for one, am not going in there with any preconceived notions of what I think this story should be or let me even go deeper inside the story. I'm not even going to assume that everything is what it is, simply because the whole story was predicated around this being a dream world. We got to wake up from this dream world. We got to, no matter what it looks like, I'm saying, no matter who we are, we got to be the ones to wake up and change this shit we're in. You know what I mean? Because we're being controlled by these robots, we're in a dream world. And also, it doesn't matter what the hero looks like. The hero just has to come forward and help everyone and awaken everyone. So that's what I'm taking. That's what I'm taking it as. I don't care who the hero ends up being. Honestly, just as long as it's a great story. You know what I'm saying? I always say, as long as you have a great story, you can get away with anything. Just make the story great, and I'm excited about this. I want to go see this, right? I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna tell you, oh, this trailer's terrible. Blah 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 blah. I'm not gonna. I don't feel that way. I'm excited that it's going in a new direction. I mean, Lord knows that it's made it into the cultural zeitgeist to where every popular show has manipulated slow mo. They done this, they've done this, all these parodies on the Matrix. It's not supposed to look exactly like it was 20 years ago. If that was the case, I wouldn't see it. Why would you want to see it if it's the same thing, right? There's some elements, right, obviously, about it rebooting. You know, that's the whole thing. The Matrix reboots, and we get another installment as far as that universe is concerned. There's always a hero that that's resurrected, and there's always this cycle. So I want to see that. I want to see them in different settings. You know what I'm saying? They said that it's resurrection. It's not supposed to be everything's how we expect it to be, right? I keep driving this home because I want to see something different, man. I mean, The Matrix was such a big universe. It had if you think about all these other stories that get all these different installments, as many installments as whatever, you got to think that the Matrix should be able to hold its own, having more than three installments. Especially with the Avengers of the world, with the whatever the X Men's of the world. This movie is big enough to stand on, multiple legs and multiple movies, and start a whole new franchise if need be. I mean, obviously that's what they're doing. I think they're gonna go for a part five. Um, Obviously depending on how this goes, but this, I don't feel like this was a cash grab, man. I don't feel like it's a cash grab. I feel like, Keanu Reeves said it was a good story. You know what I'm saying? And Keanu Reeves hasn't been in too many bad movies lately. So, and this is one of his bigger roles. So I feel like he wouldn't come back just to slid off my chair. I feel like he wouldn't come back to, ruin something that was, what I mean, that was as special as The Matrix. I don't see it happening. So I feel like, definitely giving some goodwill, what I mean, and giving the benefit of the doubt, because why not? I want to see something different. The Matrix. There's so many twists and turns. There's so many different ways they can go. I heard someone say that Morpheus might be a bad guy. It's all up for interpretation, because this is we're essentially still going down a rabbit hole. People are still asleep. You see what I'm saying? Like when there was a truce in the Matrix 3, after Neo sacrificed himself. Um, the truce was that the robots weren't going to destroy um, Zion. They weren't going to destroy Zion, but they still were going to continue business as normal, do business as normal, which meant using people for batteries, and still having a efficient amount of humans to you know basically feed off, as far as electricity and energy and all that, since the sun was um, blacked out from them, and they need solar energy in order to keep going, as robots. um, but yeah, but no, I have high expectations. You know what I'm saying? I have high expectations. I'm not gonna nitpick as far as um, saying, "Oh, this is trash. I don't like this. I don't like," because I'm going to see it. So I'm reserving judgment in that sense, because I'm gonna highlight all the things I like, all the things that got me excited. You know what I'm saying? That are getting me excited about seeing this movie in December. You know what I mean? That's what this is about. So we're gonna continue. Even when you compare the old Matrix, and this is another thing I want to say, when you compare the old Matrix movies, they don't look. I mean, just looking at this little bitty trailer, um, this Matrix looks a lot more colorful, right? And why is that important to me? Why am I talking about it being more colorful? We're talking about the Matrix being a system, right? It's a system that reboots, recleans, upgrades, and all that. So the older ones they look darker, they look more grimier, more claustrophobic, closer, more intimate. Whereas this one, it seems more colorful, more open, more updated. It looks cleaner in the city. So, and this story is supposed to, if I'm correct, this story is actually supposed to be decades into the future. I think I heard some sources say somewhere somewhere in the ballpark of 60 years after the events of um, Matrix 3. So, yeah, obviously with this, the truce between the humans and the robots is coming to an end. It's obviously coming to an end because why would Neo be coming back, right? Why would there be a resurrection if there didn't need to be a resurrection, So I think this is where we see the truce being broken, man. You know what I'm saying? And this is also the movie where we see um, the gaps being filled, right? We see the gaps being filled, and it was nice seeing Trinity, and it was nice seeing Trinity and Neo shake hands. They didn't know each other and stuff, and here's something too. There's two handshakes that I captured while I was screenshotting the trailer. One I'm sure was them meeting somewhere. It looked like a coffee shop. They were shaking hands, and it just looked like a normal two hand shaking. And then there was another picture I got where two hands were shaking, and there was light in between them, right? So I'm thinking of light, and then I thought of when Neo sacrificed himself at the end of Matrix 3 when his body was being hauled off respectfully by the robots. There was this light emanating, right? There was this light emanating from Neo, right? Who was, by all accounts, he looked like he was dead, and but he wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, obviously he has, he wasn't dead. He can't die, right? Because he's the one. He has the power to change the whole world. So, um, yeah, it was dope to see. And that handshake between them, or I don't know whose hands those were, but it made me think that there was a reconnection of energy. Maybe a reawakening, maybe a reawakening of energy, of thoughts, of the past life, their past life, Trinity, Neo, Morpheus. It's a resurrection, um, in every sense of the word. If you look back at the trailer, a lot of the pictures. Well, when you slice it up and you screenshot it and show it, it looks like they're actually going back. They're showing the beginning, which makes sense. It's a reboot. It's a reboot in every sense of the word. Probably more seriously than other, you know, materials that you call reboots, because this is what the Matrix does. It reboots, and a new hero is, basically thrusted forward. Because that's the cycle. There's always, in the hero Neo is anomaly. I think I think of it in terms of philosophy and philosophy, and also just that one bit of human element, one aspect the machines did not account for, and how could you can't quantify it. It's not math. It's not you know the human spirit. You know what I mean? That's the one thing that they couldn't account for, was the human spirit, which is actually the reason I believe um, the humans are still in the fight, because the human spirit, they're not as cold and calculated and callous as machines would be. Just by definition, machines are just X's and O's, right? So even with them being intelligent life, there's still X's and O's, and we're not like that. We're irrational. Even though we do X's and O's, we're still irrational, and we'll drop anything at the drop of a at the hat to save one another. Most of us. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing. That's the biggest thing I think that they didn't count for, that we have going for us. That's why we're still in the fight in that story. You know in my opinion, is what makes us who we are. The fact that we're humans, we're not all cold, calculated, and just numbers. You know what I mean? They didn't account for the human heart, the human spirit, the human soul. And Neo is reborn. I mean, check it right here. This This picture right here of Neo being, reawoken, resurrected. Um, there's also this picture right here of, it looks like Trinity kind of in the same setting that we found her in the first one, where she's trying to evade the basically the wrath of law enforcement, the agents. The thing that I think is chilling while I'm looking at my phone, while I'm on my iPad, is that there's a scene of Neo in the elevator, and everyone else is just like on their phones like this, just like we're glued, right? We're stuck. We're in the matrix. They already got us, right? It's like a slow takeover. Well, I want to just let me just use that. Let me just use that example. It's like a slow takeover. They don't have to, have this war with us anymore. Like they've even got they've even with these upgrades with Matrix rebooting itself after all those decades after Matrix 3. They got us. They don't have to war with us. They found even more ways to sedate us, to keep us asleep, and we're all on our phones like this. And in the elevator, Neo's looking around and he's like, he's the only one not on he's the only one not on his phone, which makes total sense, man. It's crazy, man. It's just crazy how like they're using the times to their advantage, and they're really showing it. You know what I'm saying? And that's real life. Like I remember when I used to live back home in my old state. You walk down the street, you couldn't even say hi to nobody. You couldn't even say hi, and they say hi back because everyone's just like walking down the street just like this. You know what I'm saying? And then also, Neo is taking they got, apparently Neo has a therapist. And Neo's therapist, I think, has prescribed him tons of blue pills. And he's taking them. You know what I'm saying? So it's different, man. It's heavy. It's heavy, man. He's definitely taking a lot of blue pills this time. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's a different take, man. It's a different take, and it's so crazy to think, you know, think about in the original. Morpheus was like, red pill, blue pill. You know what I'm saying? Blue pill, you go back to your life, blah blah blah. You think whatever you want to. The red pill, you see how deep the rabbit hole goes, and he took the blue pill. And just think, like in the trailer, there's so many pills that he takes, like weekly, and it's like they're using so many blue pills to put him to sleep. You know what I mean? And his therapist is an agent of some sort, right? Either no, it's not. I was gonna say he's the Oracle. He's not the Oracle. There's a young lady that's the Oracle in there, and it's evident who she is. But yeah, man, they give him so many blue pills to put him to sleep, but he's so, and I take that as I take him waking up, meaning he's so strong, even though he's been, you know, put under, sleep with all these pills, he's still breaking free. He's still looking at stuff differently than other people are, which is interesting, man. I'm really excited to see where they go with this, man. I don't want to see necessarily too many things that are familiar. I want to see some bits and pieces of of the past, fragments of the past. That's cool because they're going to show that obviously, but I want to see past that. I want to see a fresh new start, man, a fresh new springboard for them to tell another story, because this story is so big, man. They can go so many places with this, so many head trips. I just hope we don't have too many moments like when um, Keanu was talking to, or Neo was talking to the AI in the chair, and he's saying um, all these just long winded, drawn out exposition of why things are, and it's bits and pieces of it are cool, but I'm just like, we don't need that. We don't need that. You know what? We already had that. We already had that, so we don't need it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to. I want a lot of action, and I want the story to just, I want the story to blow me away. You know, honestly, I got high expectations. Okay, so final thoughts. What do I think? I think it's it means resurrection in every sense of the word. It's not just Neo that's being resurrected. It's Morpheus. It's Trinity. It's the Oracle. It's other people. You know what I mean? The ones that I don't know if Agent Smith is going to be in there, but obviously there's agents though. So it's the resurrection of everyone coming back. Everyone that was human are coming back to battle, right? They're coming back to be the heroes we need them to be in whatever reincarnation that ends up being. And I'm okay with that. I just need the story to be great. You know what I mean? Because I think that whole concept is actually pretty dope, man. Resurrection. And, if you look closely, and I'm not going to show you guys this right away. I mean, it's already up there, but I don't want to break this down. If you look closely yourselves, because I did have to research for you, the Oracle's in there. She's in there. Um, Trinity's in there, and she's being played by someone else, and Neo's you know, and another thing about Neo. One last thing about Neo is that if I heard correctly, like I said, this happened 60 years after the events of Matrix 3 when the machines and the humans had the truce. And I think the old man, remember when I told you guys we see Neo, but he's not really Neo? You know what I'm saying? He has the spirit of Neo in him, right? The code of Neo in him, but he's an older man who looks like he's in his late 50s, 60s, maybe 60s. And that ties into what I was my point that I'm gonna make. Um, if I heard correctly, the truce was lasted for 60 years up until now, where Neo was an older man. He's been sleeping much longer than he did when he was the other, when he was the older Neo, or I should say when he was the older model, and he's been sleeping a lot longer than he did in the old one, and so people are trying to find him. You know what I'm saying? And so it's dope in that aspect when I actually think about it now, and I'm like, oh, he's an older dude, but the fragments of Neo are everywhere, and it's in him. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more, you know, um, chosen ones, so to speak. But there's so much to unpack here, man. You know what I'm saying? I'll talk to y'all later. And it makes me think, man, all this entertainment at our fingertips, all these illusions, distractions, all the stimuli to our neurological networks makes me realize that we've been living in a dream world. None of this is real.